What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord, and I've got Mr. Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time here. Mike, how's it going?
It's going great, man. How you doing? I love these Friday conversations.
Oh, so much fun, man. It is just such a good time. I missed it immensely the last 3 weeks. Even though we've done a bunch of other projects together, it's still like this is the time where it's kind of like decompress from the week, kind of look at what's happening going into the weekend. As we know, activity is always high on the weekends with what we're looking at, because you get a little bit more extra time. For those of us where Saturday isn't our everyday. Um, but wanted to talk about renter red flags because we are getting into, that time where the eviction moratorium, as we just covered in the first video, where eviction moratorium is potentially going away. People will be getting evicted over the next 60 days, sometimes 90 days, sometimes even in New Hampshire. Don't get jealous. We can actually get an eviction done in 7 days.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. 7 days.
7 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Live free or die. Live free or die. Yeah, we can get
Nice.
one done in 7 days. We have to prove a couple things, but it's usually pretty easy to prove those things. And because the state says, yeah, it's expensive to get somebody out. So the thing that I wanted to talk about was those renter red flags is as people, most people, when they're smaller, most people still self-manage. When they're certainly having those 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 unit type of opportunities. And so wanted to kind of talk about some renter red flags because I self-managed, I had the experience this last week that was just completely eye-opening to me. But wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit because I think that that's the biggest risk that people are going to face in the coming 6 months, because I'll just be very blunt. I think another lockdown is absolutely going to come this winter. I think the numbers are going to be, I think the numbers are going to be, and I work in healthcare for my real job. So I think the numbers are going to be absolutely horrible. I mean, literally horrible again with this Delta thing. So I think that there is a very high chance that you will see another series of at least quasi lockdowns, if not full lockdowns. And so people should probably buy your course and start getting work done now. But B, there's going to be the decisions that they make now on don't just get somebody in the unit, but get the right person in the unit, I think are going to be critical. I know that, as you go through this process, just like you have a buy box, you kind of have that renter box. And so for you, what does that renter box show based on have you added anything to that renter box based on what we've experienced over the last year?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that are now red flags to me that maybe weren't a year ago. Right. And the biggest one for me is urgency from the tenant side. And what I mean by urgency is what I perceive as lack of planning, right? It's the 30th today. And, I didn't happen today, but yesterday, the 29th? I got a call from my property manager relaying a tenant message to me going, they want to be in August 1st, for this, that, and other reason. And I got to tell you, in an environment like this, where I expect a lot of underperforming tenants who probably were not great to their previous landlord, I expect a lot of people to start churning, right? And they're going to be being kicked out or ghost one landlord and have to go somewhere else. So we're going to see a lot of tenant turnover, and I'm going to be very sensitive to that, right? If I get an application that must move in within the next 24 hours, that's going to be a red flag to me. And the answer is going to be no, because it frankly takes us 2 or 3 days to do our process, credit check, rental reference, things of that nature. So if you come in and you throw down, hey, I'll pay 3 months, right now plus deposit, but I got to be in tomorrow, the answer is going to be no. Because probably what happened is you didn't pay your last landlord for a year. You've got the money tucked away. And now you're trying to bail and come over here. And I am not going to shortcut my process because of somebody else's lack of planning. That's the biggest thing I've added, is to make sure we don't operate at somebody else's urgency. Cause I expect a lot of dirty pool to be played the next couple of months.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And so I think we should all get cozy for the next 2 or 3 minutes, because we're going to go into Uncle Lumberjack story time. And so for me, I'm the same exact way. I learned my lesson early on. Do not rush to get a tenant in, because it will almost 98.9% of the time it will backfire. 1 out of 100. By the way, I have not found that 1 in 100 yet that it worked out
Not
for
yet.
me. Yeah. Well, and that's now because we won't do that expedited stuff, but
Yeah.
just like you. So we don't property manage. So we actually had a tenant, an old tenant who was actually a great tenant, contact us. We said, okay, let's find out what's going on. She contacts me on a Monday, says, Matt, completely desperate, need to get a place ASAP. First question back was, why so desperate?
Right.
And her answer back was, I just found out that my boyfriend didn't renew and the new landlord's doing showings and he wants to raise the rent considerably. And so we're ready to move. I said, okay, sounds good. I said, be happy to show you something. Cause that honestly, that had the ring of truth is what I call it. Had the ring of truth to it. Okay. You thought you could find something better. You didn't. Now you're 7 days away. You still haven't. And he's raised it so much that you're saying, uncle, we got to get out. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I'll believe you. And so then we meet them, then I meet them because we self-manage. And so I meet them at the property, have them go in, and literally within 3 seconds in the door, the nitpicking begins. This is somebody that was desperate, has to have a place to live. This unit was just redone 12 months ago. It has some touch-up paint that needs doing. Yeah, because the old tenant that just left, there needed to be some touch-up paint. They needed a newer unit because they had a baby and they couldn't live in that unit anymore. They needed another bedroom. Okay, fine. So then I start getting grilled, and this person represents himself, her boyfriend represents himself as a contractor.
Oh.
And so then he starts saying a couple things, and I said, what kind of and he literally looks at, so those drop ceilings.
Yep.
So we had a leak above that because the bathroom upstairs is right above that. And so there was a tiny leak where that thing had basically, sorry, this is the shape I'm making with my hand, where it kind of bowed that ceiling tile.
Yeah.
So he's like, I mean, that right there, like that's structural, like that needs to be handled. So I asked him, I said, what kind of a contractor are you? And he said, landscaping contractor. Oh, well, now it makes, so he's trying to get the chops for acting like he's not a landscape contractor, like he's a contractor. And I'm like, because as soon as he said that structural, I'm like, like you don't even know
what are you talking?
Yeah, we don't even know. And then he literally just starts walking through the place, picking it apart. He's like, well, I expect that to be fixed. I expect that to be fixed. I expect that to be fixed. And I just said to him, I go, here's the problem. I said, you want to move in 4 days.
Right.
I can't get the crew on that stuff that fast, but I can handle it in the next 2 weeks. We already have a list of things we're working through.
Yeah.
Then he says, and the other thing I want to talk about too is I don't want to do yearly lease. I want to go month to month. I was like, I don't do month to months. I said, they're too much work, too much effort. And I said, and if you give me notice in December, what's the likelihood I'm going to rent this thing back out in December? In the Northeast, that's not a thing. We have 2 feet of snow on the ground. It's usually 7 degrees outside. Yeah. That's not something where anybody wants to move. And in fact, if you're getting a tenant in December or January, guess where you're getting them from? Somebody else's unit that isn't paying, got tossed out, or there's some crazy reason that you're getting that tenant in December or January.
Yeah.
So then he wanted me to take month to month. And I just said, you know what? I said, no,
we're done.
Not going to work for me. And literally then I start pointing out things, but I was like, oh, did you see this? Yeah, this is a problem over here too. Oh yeah, did you see this? I mean, you as a contractor probably know this is a huge problem too. I start doing that to my own place. And the crazy thing was, he goes, you know what? He goes, yeah, I really just want you to think about it. Think about the month to month thing. And I go, okay, yep, thought about it, still no. I said, we're not doing a month to month. And I said, it's not worth it to me. He goes, yeah, I just don't think that's going to be a fit for us. I said, I completely understand. You're right. It's clearly not a fit.
Yeah.
And honestly, this guy got me so spun up because then he said another thing when he was walking out the door. And I was just like, listen, at the end of the day, my man, I definitely don't need you to rent this apartment. Before I would rent to you, I'd probably let it stay vacant.
Yeah, no, I would not rent to that person. Ever. So
one of the things I want people to pick up on is the red flag there, aside from the guy being a total jackass. And quite frankly, probably even next level, I'd say it was more of an asshole. Even going that level with the guy, that's clearly a guy you never want to rent to, because no matter what you do, it's never going to be right. It's never going to be good enough.
Yeah.
And everything that they want done tomorrow. And that's just not how the world works. Most other people, most tenants, what we really look for is recognizing that, hey, last time I checked, there's a major pandemic out there. Everything is in short supply, labor, materials, everything. So where
Hmm.
we used to be able to fix it in less than 5 days, if it's an emergency, water, whatever, of course we fix it same day. But if it's something else, it might take 5 days to 2 weeks to get it done because we have to order something, wait for the guy to have time in his schedule, etc. So I think that for those of you out there that self-manage, you definitely want to be keeping an eye on, don't just do this to get the property rented. Do it to get it rented to the right person, because you will rue the day. It'll feel good when you're signing the document that day and getting first month's rent and security. It will feel bad every day thereafter. It will be a
Yeah.
horrible decision.
Yeah. The other thing I sense in a situation like that is that, there are professional tenants out there.
There are.
And what I sense in an individual like that would be he's pointing out these things so we could, he can always go back and say, see, I told him here, and he will withhold rent.
Yep.
So that's just a game that he was getting ready to play. So
yep,
ouch.
I agree. Thankfully, we were able to take it off the table for him.
Yeah, somebody else rented it. Oh, shocking. In an environment where there's no affordable rentals. Oh,
yeah,
shocking.
I mean, literally, I had to say to him, I said, listen, and I actually said to his girlfriend, I said, listen, Carrie Ann, you asked me for a favor. I was happy to try and do you the favor. This definitely does not feel like I can help you guys out. It's not going to work out. So I wish you guys the best. Hope you find the right place. And I mean, worst case scenario is you get to move back home with your parents in 7 days. You've always got that.
Yeah, there you go. Have fun, Carrie Ann.
Exactly. So yeah. So like I said, wanted to make sure to cover rental red flags with you. A lot of people self-manage. Don't make the mistake, guys. Don't make the mistake. Don't be so hellbent on getting that thing rented out that you're renting it out to the wrong person. Because if there is a shutdown, if there is another moratorium that they spend 60 or 90 days putting in place, listen to all the stories that Mike and Ian have had over the last year, and the thousands and thousands of dollars that in some cases we eventually got back, but we were out of pocket for months, and in some cases almost a year. So Mike, how can everybody find you an amazing one rental at a time?
Yeah, go to Google search bar and type in one rental at a time. YouTube, book, Instagram, all that stuff should come up.
It's all there, folks. And so guys, as always, Mike and I spent a ton of time trying to put together some awesome content for you and making sure that we're hitting issues that are important to you. Feel free to leave comments below. Make sure to subscribe, lumberjacklandlord.com, Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube. And again, if you've got the time or the idea that you want to get into being a landlord, I can't recommend a better course than one rental at a time. And quite frankly, bang for the buck. So holy cow. 7, 8 or 8 experts putting content into that thing, and just everything you could possibly imagine in one place. Just the convenience charge. You shouldn't even be selling the course. It's just a convenience charge.
I agree.
Unbelievable. It is. It's awesome. So Mike, thanks so much. Let's get ready for segment number 3. We're going to talk a little bit about, if you didn't listen and you do get some of these red flag tenants, what that churn is going to look like.
Yeah.
So Mike, thanks so much for the time. We'll get ready for number 3.
You got it.
Thanks.